Well, it's been a while since I've had a look. Well, that's not true. It's been a while since I've made a video on Broken Arrow, mainly because I've been waiting for some decent update news, and perhaps this is the start of it. So today we are getting update 1.0.11, the Easy Anti-Cheat update. So on top of the systems that they have in place, they have now enabled or built into the game Easy Anti-Cheat. Easy Anti-Cheat is made by Epic, and it's generally available to all games where it can be integrated into the engine and everything else, and they've brought it in here. Hopefully that means that it will block activation of additional cheats that link into the game in the background and things that they're maybe not picking up. So another layer on the anti-cheat system, as everyone I'm sure by this point has encountered a cheater at some time, unfortunately, in the game. So it's not just Easy Anti-Cheat, of course. There are various other updates. If you would like to just read this lovely page they put up, that's kind of the salient points. Gameplay and balance improvements, Easy Anti-Cheat integration, and the Halloween special Zombies, which we'll talk about in a few moments further down the page. So I won't say too much more about Easy Anti-Cheat. I mean, it's an ongoing thing with cheaters in every game, and bringing in more systems like Easy Anti-Cheat does make a difference. And then obviously, that on top of people reporting cheaters. One of the big issues with the game is it still doesn't have a replay system. And, replays make a huge difference when you're looking at cheaters, because then you can see often that they are cheating, because they can see things they shouldn't, they're doing things they shouldn't be, and all of this is usually available in a replay. Hopefully that stuff is coming soon. It's still on the list of things they want to release. Anyhow, let's move on further down here. So there'll now be an option when you boot up the game. Do you want to play Broken Arrow, or do you want to play it with Anti-Cheat disabled? Anti-Cheat disabled means it is in offline mode and you can't play multiplayer or team stuff. It's just single player content. Nice to see that they've got that in there. Obviously, it's an option if that's all you want to do, and that means that you can use your modifiers or cheats to play in single player without being banned from the game. It's obviously very nice that they've done that for everyone. Not every game does. Okay, what about the Halloween special gift, aka Zombies? So the most downloaded scenario in the workshop is a mode where you defend against zombies made by joining player. I've played it on stream. You can see the VOD on the YouTube channel. And it is a really good game mode. But obviously, he just used normal units that didn't fire back. It kind of worked. It was a really good mission and showed what the mission editor is capable of. What the team have gone and done is added zombies to the game so that joining player could, rework his mission if he wanted, and they've also put in their own mission as well, which is zombie defense. It can be played with 1 to 4 players in co-op, and it has a specific visual and sound ambient for the map, so obviously, spooky Halloween stuff. So they've added a few different types of zombies, which I think is really nice. I was expecting it just to be zombies, and that was it. But they've added walkers, which are a large group of slow-moving zombies that move in the direction of your units and damage them when they reach them. Then you've got runners, which are a small group of fast-moving zombies rushing in the direction of your units. Smokers, zombies on fire generating a trail of smoke behind them, which blocks line of sight. They explode in a burst of fire when they reach one of your units. Awesome. Spitters, zombies spitting acid at your units, including helicopters. The acid can damage vehicles and ignore buildings cover as well. That's pretty cool. Boomer is a large zombie rushing in the direction of your troops to explode in a burst of fire, blood, and various body parts flying around. Delightful. And then there is the Thrower, a giant zombie grabbing cars and throwing them at your units. There'll also be police added, which are law enforcement forces trapped in this chaos, unloading the magazines of their MP5s into non-compliant zombies. Civilians, please save them, and SUVs, a car to transport civilians. So they've really thought about it, and they've added a few different zombie types and a few other units very nice. Really pleased they've done that. I think that's a really nice addition to the game for Halloween or just in general. And hopefully they've reached out to Joining Player so he can do an updated version of his mission prior to the release of this patch, so it's ready to go. I don't know. I'm hoping that's the case, because obviously, as they say, his mission is, or their mission is very popular. Support for the server-side based network architecture. So this really doesn't affect us as players per se. It's more about stuff in the background for them, but we will perhaps notice some changes. So we're pleased to announce in this update introduces support for server-side network architecture. This is an important technical improvement that will not only have a noticeable impact on the gameplay for the moment, but will also serve as a solid foundation for future improvements. We plan to transfer more and more elements of game logic under server control. This approach will improve stability of online play, reduce the risk of desynchronization issues that are often mistaken for cheating, even though they're not, and I've seen that before. It will also significantly limit the possibilities for actual cheating. Realistically, ideally, this would have been in at launch, but thankfully they are moving in that direction. This is one of the issues with multiplayer games, when a lot of stuff is on the client side, on your computer in other words, it's much easier to cheat and everything else, whereas if it's on the server side, it's very hard to affect the server in the same way. Anyhow, this transition may increase server load, so our task will be to find the optimal balance between performance, stability, and quality. Work in this direction is already underway, and we will carefully monitor feedback to ensure a comfortable gaming experience for players. Obviously, there's a balance there somewhere. Anyhow, mission editor improvements. So it's worth remembering that Broken Arrow features a fully functional scenario editor and allowing players to create their own missions and in-game situations. Thanks to the creativity of our community, many player-made works are already being created, gaining well-deserved popularity on the Steam Workshop. We truly value your involvement and are inspired by the way you have developed the game alongside us. In this update, alongside more fundamental changement, we also focused on the editor. A number of improvements and fixes have been implemented to enhance the usability and stability. We aim to make the content creation process more intuitive and comfortable for both newcomers and experienced players. Significant enhancements have also been made to the help section. The reference information is now much more detailed and accessible, making it easier to get started with the editor's tools. That's really good, because one of the issues with the editor is it is very complex. You can do so much with it, but there is quite a level of complexity in learning how to use it, and I actually struggled myself. I was expecting it to be easier than it was. So really nice to see that they've worked on that as well. Okay. Balance is balance. I mean, we'll have a quick look through this, but there's quite a few changes. So they say after analysing the data collected, they've drawn down the following conclusions regarding the past balance changes. So the positive, the US specs are now correctly balanced between each other in terms of win rate and popularity. We have more and more tools available to measure the evolution of the balance over time, depending on the player elo, filters per map, and combination of specs, etc. The negative, the win rate discrepancy between the US and Russian faction didn't reduce despite the efforts in that direction. So, further changes have been made. The disparity of popularity within the Russian specializations is also high, with Guard Tank Brigade becoming even more popular to the detriment of the Mechanized Brigade, which was already the least favoured. One factor explaining the US win rate staying low was the appearance of a bug preventing terminal guidance missiles from reacquiring in some conditions. The US faction relies on this type of guidance more than the Russia side, and the Javelin missiles with their low range were particularly affected. As a result, the US anti-tank capabilities were strongly impacted, resulting in the Russian armoured mechanized tactics becoming more efficient. So we'll see if that's fixed, or makes a difference anyway. A second factor is that the KH-32 missile, which was already identified as a problem in patch 1.0.10, was supposed to be considered high-altitude projectile and intercepted at longer ranges. It mistakenly remained low altitude. As a result, these missiles continue to be a low-risk, high-reward option. For this patch, we have set ourselves three main objectives: reduce the prevalence of cruise missile and ballistic missiles to refocus the fight on the front line, reduce the win rate discrepancy between the USA and Russia, and rebalance the interest between Russian tank and mechanized specializations. So, They've added an additional anti-cheat layer, which we talked about, which is easy anti-cheat, and they've added context messages in game chat when a player tries to reconnect. You'll be aware if the player tries to reconnect as soon as they click the button instead of after the finish loading part. General fixes and improvements. So, victory point compensation mechanic now compensates 100 points per war goal achieved instead of enemy victory point. So if your team has +2 score due to having one war goal during phase 2, you'll be granted with 100 points instead of 200 upon the start of phase 3. Basically just a rebalance, or a correction perhaps. Fix an issue preventing players to progress with specialization levels. Fix lobby and post-match screen UI issues where the players reach level 100. Slightly improved performance in skirmish. Pathfinding improvements on the maps, Riga Airport, blah 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 blah, we won't go into all that. Fix an exploit allowing non-amphibians to go into water. Fix an exploit allowing planes to fly beyond the limits of some maps. Fixed a desync when unloaded/loaded units in an objective zone may block the capture. So that's quite nice, because desync issues they became more and more of an issue, I think. And then fixed a desync of radar and hold fire states in some cases. Fixed an issue where SAMs with static radars, the S300V and the Patriot Pack 2, etc., could move with the radar still activated when ordered to resupply. Fixed an issue preventing proper reacquiring of terminal guidance missiles. Fixed an issue where the last vote could decide which map was being played. So that's a really interesting one. I'm glad they fixed that. It's not the biggest issue in the world, but it was a weird thing that the last person to vote could decide the map. Very weirdly. You could wait till the end and then do it. Fix an issue with unit ghosts blocking mouse clicks. So a ghost is a state where the unit is bought but not spawned yet. Fix an issue where a plane could be destroyed when trying to attack a helicopter while having the afterburner turned on. O gravity, thou art heartless. Fixed an unit wrecks always appearing below bridges. Fixed infantry's heavy weapons not appearing again after being loaded then unloading from a transport. Fixed an issue preventing messages from appearing in chat in some cases. Improved the hint and icon of disconnected players. Now it shows how much time they've left to reconnect. Fixed an issue preventing disconnected players from being considered as deserters if the match ended shortly after they left. Fixed an issue when missiles from AA with cold launch sequence, S300, 9K, 31 Tor, 33 Tor even, hit the ground in close proximity in some cases. Fixed an issue where models died inside a house, got stuck at house exits. Fixed drag and drop commands in case where mouse button had been released over a unit. Fixed unload via drag and drop. Fixed an issue where units may not capture an objective if there was another hidden objective placed in the same area. Fixed multiple cases of UI issues when joining the lobby. Fixed UI issues on the campaign screen. Fixed hold fire state being removed due to enemy aiming units that weren't visible. Fixed the ECM pylons being invisible in some cases. Fixed precision strike visual feedback staying in place if there was not enough ammo for any attack orders. Added a reset to default color option in the labels coloring settings. Reworked the AH1Z LODs and camo fixes. Fixed the missing explosion sound effects and the 105mm cluster shell. Removed redundant sounds from some pop-up windows. Various localization fixes and improvements, and various fixes to the PvE scenarios that are already in the game. Okay. Then the mission editor fixes and improvements. We'll quickly whiz through them as well, since I'm being a completionist today. Updated the mission editor help page documents. Fixed the mission editor help page crash if it was being launched again after a mission restart. Node get slot data now properly works in both network and solo modes. Get slot data now IS player boolean output. Extended on artillery shot node function. Added team shell type filters target position output pin. Hopefully this makes sense to someone. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Added a new function node random point, and that will give a new random point radius from the original position each time any connected node is active. Fixed logic node test condition wait condition not working properly with the connected functional nodes. The nodes convert number and convert text now work correctly and are made functional. fixed node calculate, fixed node counter, fixed spawn unit. I'm not going to read through all of these because I don't know what half of it means. Fixed player audio node not working with tags, fixed all purple node connections, fixed an issue where the scenario lobby may freeze during loading if the scenario had an empty slot for a player and the player had pre-placed units in scenario. Fixed some nodes having only partial synchronization. Added synchronization of network nodes to all of these things. You can see them on the screen. Updated Lua nodes, available APIs updated, fixed node syntax runtime errors, handling errors, and errors won't prevent reload from working anymore. Anyway, help page updated. Anyway, custom objects are now synchronized through the network, and nodes can now accept supply and spawn data inputs. That was a lot. Quite a lot of updates there. I mean, let's move on to the important stuff, which is the balance changes. So, reduced cruise missile spam meta. The KH-32 missiles are now correctly considered high altitude and engaged at long range. Missing ammo value doubled when units are refunded. So, selling a ballistic missile launcher after shooting it will cost you double, for instance. Planes are unaffected by this global change and receive individual changes instead. The AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missile resupply cost is increased from 30 to 40. The KH-58 USHK anti-radiation missile 30 to 40. The KH-31 anti-radiation missile from 25 to 30. Slammer cruise missile resupply cost 32 to 40. JSM cruise missile resupply 32 to 40. The KH-59MK and Mark II cruise missiles resupply cost from 32 to 50. JASSM cruise missile 45 to 50. The KH-29 missile resupply 30 to 45. The KH-32 60 to 80. Cruise missile launch from planes aim time increased from 1 to 3 seconds. This prevents cruise missiles from being fired at the last second to make them impossible to dodge. The aim time is the delay before shooting a salvo of missiles, not the time between two missiles in a salvo. So just bear that in mind. KH-59 MK and MK2 damage reduced from 10 to 8.5. So a pair of the KH-59 fired from the Su-57 was able to destroy any vehicle. This was making the use of tanks almost impossible on the US side. The JSO and PBK 500 damage has been increased from 7 to 8.5. Smart cluster bombs were almost never used as a pair, as they would not even kill an IFV with 14 hit points. The increase in damage to 8.5 allows them to destroy anything with 16 HP on a par with a pair of bombs. The US faction has more cluster bombs than Russia, so this is also a soft way to rebalance the faction's win rates. We'll see if it makes a difference. So, they've made some changes to various specializations. So, they've reduced the Russian Guard tank specialization power. Designer note here, all specializations within a faction are linked together, so if one of them is overperforming, all the other specs benefit from it. This is the case with the Russian Guard tank specialization, which is pulling up the win rate of all the Russian specs, as a result, the entire Russian faction. Targeting it in particular will allow a rebalance of the two factions, but also the rebalance inside the Russian faction itself. So the T-15 Barbaros has been moved to the vehicle tab with an availability of 2. The T-15 Barbaros 57mm has gone from 50 to 100 in cost, I think that is. The 9K317 Buck has been moved to tank, and the S300V Antony has moved to mech. Ante? How do I pronounce that? Someone can let me know in the comments. Anyhow, the Cornet T has been reassigned to mech specialization. The Engineering Sturmoviki has been reassigned to the mech specialization, and the squad size has been reduced from 8 to 7 to fit into BMPs. The Sturmoviki has reassigned to guard tank specialization, and their squad size has increased from 7 to 8, and an additional PKP has been added. Armor has reduced from 10 to 8. Price has increased from 50 to 55. The PT Terminator base price has gone from 160 to 190, the AGS upgrade from 20 to 40, and the armor upgrade from 10 to 20. So, price increase all round. The BRM 3K 57mm upgrade has gone from 45 to 50, 57mm attacker 55 to 65, and armor upgrade 15 to 20. The Kurganets and Boomerang APS charges have been reduced from 4 to 2, and the APS options price has been reduced by 5 points to compensate. The Kurganets Epocha module price 60 to 75, and the BMP3 Epocha module has gone from 35 to 45. So, general smidgen rebalancing all across the board there. Okay, US faction improvements. Designer's note here. In comparison, the US faction is much more balanced internally. There's not one specialization which is strongly pulling the others up or down. So the buffs applied to the US faction only aim at improving the win rate of the faction in general. Javelin missile minimal range has been reduced from 200 to 100 meters. The F-16C/V added the option for aim 9 on the middle pylons. Bradley A2, A2 ESV, A3 ESV, A2 CFV base price reduced by 5 points. Slam Ram repurposed as a SHORAD unit with the ability to engage helicopters at the cost of a shorter range against planes. The Slam Ram base price has been reduced from 130 to 100, 6 AMRAMs 170 to 130, and the AMRAM and AIM 180 to 150. So reduced price for the fact it is now a SHORAD. Designer's note. With the Patriot split between the 3 specs in the last patch, we can now repurpose the Slam Ram into a different role without removing a vital anti-plane asset from many decks. It will now act as some kind of OSA or TOR equivalent instead of a Buck equivalent. New customization for the Centurion. The RIM 116 CRAM. Designer's note here, with the 11 fire and forget missiles and a radar to increase their engagement range, this is another strong buff for the US SHORAD capabilities. So basically we're going from a minigun to a bunch of missiles. Fair enough. Okay. Tanks side armor compression. Tank side armor heat values compressed to make side shots from infantry RPGs more efficient, basically trying to make infantry better against vehicles again. Because this was something that was a big issue before the game was released. The infantry were terrible, and they've still struggled, let's be fair. So the Abrams series, the Tusk 1 armor has been reduced from 450 to 400, Tusk 2 plus trophy 600 to 450, and Tusk 2 armor reduced from 700 to 500. The T-Series, the real kit armor on the T72BM, B3M, the T80 BVM and the T90M, armor reduced from 600 to 500. The real kit armor, Relikit, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyhow, it's on the T14 and the T15, reduced from 700 to 500. And then the T72 B3M OBR 16, T90M, T80 BVM OBR 18 with the Relikit and soft case Relikit armor has reduced from 800 to 600. So big decreases or reasonable decreases, which should certainly buff a bunch of the infantry launched RPGs from both factions. Anyhow, underused units and customization buffs and various fixes. So the Razvedka squads receive a PKM machine gun, replacing one of their AKM rifles. The Giant Sint S rate of fire has been increased. Time between shots reduced from 8 to 10 seconds to 7 to 8 seconds. The MiG-35 added the R-73 option for middle pylons, fixed the amount of shotgun shells for Force Recon, 10 to 100, and then the KA-52 added the GSH-23 pods as an option on the inner pylons. The Russian default deck has been changed from motorized mechanized to coastal mechanized. Designer's note, as an experiment, we'd like to observe how much the default deck impacts specialization pick rates and win rates. Interesting thought. We sincerely appreciate your engagement and feedback. This is thanks to you that Broken Arrow keeps getting better with every update. We hope these improvements will bring you joy and deliver even more exciting gameplay moments. Now, obviously, lots of improvements there, or some improvements. Not as many balance changes I kind of expected, but some decent ones. Obviously, we got easy anti-cheat in there, the zombies coming in for Halloween, and if you've read the other recent news, obviously they're still working on saving for single player, which is obviously proving quite difficult for them, and they're still working on replays. Replays is still a big frustrating point for me, obviously, as someone who would have loved to cast the games, but no spectator slot, no replays, makes it very difficult to do casting, and credit to the people who've done it from one side, but I just couldn't stomach it. I'm missing half the information, and that kind of spoils casting for me. But never mind, it is what it is. Hopefully they'll get that out sooner rather than later still. So there you go, that is the big update to Broken Arrow, and people are definitely checking it out because the player numbers have spiked again. Let's see where it leaves everybody. Obviously, I will certainly be checking out the zombie mode. Looking forward to seeing how they play. Always enjoy zombie modes in games. Bit of fun. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all soon.